As I tap into Melissa Casillas to remote view what happened to her, I'm immediately struck by frantic panic on Melissa's face. She's like frantically moving back and forth. I feel she's confused. Oh, she's in a panic. Something's not right here. I'm going to go back in and get more on my remote viewing of what happened to her.
As last year, I received an email from a crime junkie. A woman named Jasmine wanted help because her aunt had recently vanished from Taos County, New Mexico, and no one could agree on what happened to her. But everyone did agree to speak with us, because at the heart of it, they all say they want to know what happened to her. Her husband and her daughter think that she left on her own. Other family believes that she was a victim of foul play. And to be honest with you, I don't know what to believe. Each side believes their theory so fervently that I'm afraid my recounting of the facts as I know them are going to upset everyone, because even the facts don't make sense. But that usually means that we're missing something, a piece of the puzzle that maybe one of you out there hearing this right now might have. And there is a small chance that missing piece has bigger implications than I could have ever imagined when I first read Jasmine's email last year. This is the story of Melissa Casillas.
Believe that at all. A couple things. I mentioned the family was having some financial troubles, or Melissa was having financial troubles. Well, I did learn that that was in fact true, so much so that at a certain point, both Melissa and Mark, they lost their security clearances at Los Alamos because they were in such financial distress. Multiple liens. There was a lawsuit of some sort. Melissa was trying to get a loan for Sierra's beauty school, her daughter's beauty school. And actually she was denied that loan just a few days before she went missing. So it turns out, reportedly, that Mark and Melissa, they ended up sort of splitting their finances to a degree. So I thought that was really interesting. And, one of the statements that I read of Mark said, we had faced the hardest of times in 2009, 2010. We can get through this together, blah, blah, blah. And then he said something strange, or what I thought was strange. You have help, but only for how long?
Okay, here is what we do know about this very mysterious case. Who is Melissa? She was a real person. She was an administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory, not a field scientist, a woman at the center of some of the most sensitive nuclear research in the United States. She was a mother to Sierra. They were tight. The family was said to be really tight on the one side, rather very fractured on the other side. So there was part of the family that was super tight and the other part of the family not so tight. There was a financial stresses mounting where they, as you just heard, would lose their security clearances due to multiple liens. Her entire career was rumored at Los Alamos National Laboratory to be unraveling. She was losing grips and was not performing well, apparently, at work. And the loan was denied for Sierra's beauty school just days before she vanished. So we got two worlds colliding. The woman and her family thought they knew versus the woman the police pieced together. We're going to go through it in more depth here. And I'm going to go back in and do another remote viewing so we can figure out what exactly happened to Melissa Casillas, rather. Thank you. Okay, let's go through the timeline as we know it so far. Okay, the day she vanished, the timeline, 8:02 a.m. Her old phone is factory reset while she was still at home. I mean, who resets their phone at 8 a.m. on a work day? I mean, that is very unusual, right? And then that morning, she emails a coworker and lies about being late due to Sierra, which shows some sort of calculated misstatement to cover up what? We don't really know. At 12:56 p.m., surveillance shows Melissa dropping off her lunch to Sierra. She goes to a shopping plaza alone, appears fine, picks up Sierra's check, which she was supposed to deposit for her daughter Sierra later that day. Now we're at 1:38 p.m. Her new phone, her second phone, is deliberately also factory reset. One is reset at 8:02. The new phone is reset at 1:38. I mean, scrubbed completely. Apple confirms intentional, thorough digital eraser. She erased everything. So that's at 1:38. She clears out her second phone. At 2:18, which is 22, 30, 40 minutes after she scrubs her second phone completely, Highway 518 surveillance shows Melissa walking alone at a brisk pace with a small backpack. 5 p.m., her husband, Mark, calls to report her missing. Well, let's keep watching. We've got two phones, two resets, hours apart. Doesn't feel like a woman in a crisis who is beside herself emotionally. This seems like a woman with a plan or a woman trying to erase something somebody needed gone. So far, tell me what you think. We're going to keep diving. We're going to watch more clips, and I'm going to dive into another remote viewing more in depth to give you a more clear answer to what I'm seeing here happening that day.
Melissa's not there, but lots of her stuff is. On the kitchen table, Sierra finds her mom's work phone and badge, her keys, and this small gold chain that her mother-in-law gave her that she normally wears like every single day. Then, in the loft area of their house, what connects to her bedroom, Sierra sees a paycheck that she had given her mom that afternoon to deposit for her. And finally, she goes into her mom's office, where she finds Melissa's purse, her wallet, and both of her personal cell phones, her old phone and then her new one that she just replaced it with. When Sierra picks them up, this is when panic sets in because both phones show a welcome screen. That backdrop that you see when a device is brand new, except we know these aren't new. And Sierra realizes that they have been factory reset, wiped clean. And when she tries to log into Melissa's iCloud, it seems like the password has been changed. So from the house, Sierra frantically calls her dad. He's not far behind. He'd caught a ride with a coworker, so whatever's going on, they can figure it out together when he gets home. And when he gets there, he walks through the property with a different lens. Mark told us that he is a hunter and a professional outfitter, someone who takes paying clients through backcountry terrain. So he knows how to read the land. And right away, he began looking for signs of a struggle. I mean, Melissa's tough, and she's not someone who would have gone down without a fight. If someone forced her out of the house, there would be evidence of it. But there isn't. Nothing is missing, and the only thing that catches his eye is an unfamiliar set of tire tracks in the driveway, but they share that driveway with a neighbor. Now, from what he can tell, he says they're still unknown, maybe not the neighbor's car, but they look like they might have come from a Jeep. Not knowing what else to do, Mark picks up the phone and calls New Mexico State Police Dispatch right around 5 p.m.
New Mexico State Police, this is Tomas.
Yeah, this is Mark Casias. You know what? We cannot locate my wife. We haven't heard from her all day from work. It was this morning was the last time I saw her work. My daughter saw her around 1 o'clock. all her stuff is here in the house, but she's not here, and it's just not like her to not call work and check in and take her purse and her phone. And it looks like her phone has been, my daughter says it looks like it's been reset. But so we looked all around the house, everywhere on our property. We cannot find her or nothing, and I don't know what to do. The car that she was in is parked here at the house. The keys are here. The house was locked. Everything is here. You know what I mean? So she went from the plaza. She came home. The car was here, parked in the yard. The keys are on the kitchen table.
What's her name?
Melissa Casillas, and we called.
What totally threw him for a loop. Now, on the phone with dispatch, Mark had said that Melissa didn't take anything with her. But when he and Sierra actually look more carefully, a few small things are missing. Melissa's toothbrush, her reading glasses, and sunglasses. And most significantly, what they calculate to be a 90-day supply of her thyroid medication.
That doesn't exactly scream foul play.
No, but Melissa just leaving without a word to her family does not make sense either. Mark tells police that they were supposed to leave the next morning for a camping trip. And beyond that, Melissa is a devoted mother. Mark has 3 daughters from a previous marriage, but Sierra is Melissa's only child, and the two of them are close in a way that is hard to overstate, especially after Sierra survived a car accident in 2022 that killed her best friend, a girl who had been like a sister to her. And from that, Sierra suffered serious injuries, and the emotional damage lingered for longer than the physical. Like, it had been a rough few years. But things were finally looking up. Sierra had just graduated high school. She was set to move to Albuquerque in the fall for beauty school so she could become an esthetician. And Melissa had planned to rent a 2-bedroom apartment there to stay with her for the first couple of months just to get her settled. And Mark told us that he planned to kind of go back and forth. Plus, he tells police that they have a strong marriage. Melissa has never mentioned wanting to leave him, never mentioned wanting to leave the girls, none of it. This just doesn't make sense.
Right, so why would she walk away from all of that?
That's the question that hangs in the air as family members who had gotten word about her being missing start arriving. Like Melissa's parents and her brother, her sister Trudy, and Trudy's daughter, Jasmine. Melissa's parents, Jose and Joanne Mondragon, live nearby, although they had been in Albuquerque visiting Trudy that day. But once they heard what was going on from Sierra, they were in the car. And these are longtime Crime Junkie listeners. So even in shock, they said that they felt like they were prepared and knew what to do. They worked the phones during the 2.5-hour drive to Taos, calling relatives and hospitals, hoping that Melissa would be home safe by the time that they got there. Instead, they pulled up to a property bathed in police lights, and they were told to wait outside, away from Mark and Sierra. Now, they don't believe for a second that Melissa left on her own. Something bad must have happened. And they already have someone in mind, Diego Martinez, who is Sierra's ex-boyfriend. Now, Diego had been behind the wheel in the crash that killed Sierra's best friend. He suffered a traumatic brain injury in the crash, and according to the family, his behavior became frightening. In 2024, Sierra took out a restraining order against him, citing physical abuse, break-ins, stolen keys, and threats against her and loved ones, including specific threats against Melissa. Diego had also sent Melissa sexually explicit text messages.
And did Mark and Sierra bring him up at any point too?
Not that I know of. Still, though, from the very first night, Diego's name is already on the table. But before that thread can even go anywhere, something else comes up. Jasmine has been blasting missing person posts on social media since the moment she understood what was happening. And almost immediately, someone had reached out. And this isn't just anybody. This is a guy named Lloyd who has known both Melissa and Mark since they were children. And he tells Melissa's brother that he saw Melissa earlier that afternoon walking along a highway close to her house, Highway 518, in a spot that is just a couple of miles away. He says that she was wearing a white sweater and she was kind of stumbling or staggering. And there was this old blue Dodge truck nearby, sort of lurking. Now, this is where the cohesive story I wish I could tell you fractures right down the middle. Because from this point on, almost every significant moment in this case is going to come in at least 2 versions, with plenty of contradictions along the way. So let me just lay out the sides for you right now. In one corner, you have Mark and all 4 of his daughters, including Sierra. I'm going to call them the Casias household, even though they don't all live there. In the other corner, you have Melissa's parents, some siblings, her niece Jasmine, some friends, and I'm going to call them the Mondragons, even though not everyone on that side carries that name. And as far as the Mondragons are concerned, this moment, when this tip from Lloyd comes in, is the exact moment that they begin to become suspicious. Not of Diego, who they first told police about, but of Mark.
Of Mark. They are suspicious of the husband. Okay, let's keep going. Are you a little curious yet? Are you a little curious yet? I am.
When that tip from Lloyd comes in, Jasmine rushes to tell police what he saw. They have to check this out. Go to where he saw her. She could be hurt. Jasmine doesn't know, but this at least is a trail that they can follow, right? But instead of being excited about the lead, Mark immediately shuts it down. He tells officers there's no way that this was Melissa because she wasn't wearing a white sweater that day. Sierra remembers that she had on a light turquoise top when she saw her around lunchtime.
Okay, she could have changed.
And also, he says, Melissa doesn't have a limp. So in his mind, the top's neither here nor there because he's like, whoever this woman is that's stumbling or staggering, this is definitely not my wife.
Unless it is and she got hurt, which is all the more reason to go check it out and make sure
Okay. In my remote viewing, I have pain on my left foot. I had no idea what that was about, but I would suspect if I could talk to the guy that saw her on 518 that it looked like her left foot was injured because I have pain under my left foot. So I would suggest she was limping. Let's keep listening. So, why did her husband, Mark, quickly dismiss that this couldn't have been her, as Lloyd said, walking along Highway 518, which video camera does later show it was her because she had a limp and she was not wearing, according to Mark, a white sweater that morning? Well, it turns out he failed to tell the police that they had an argument that morning because he caught his wife, Melissa, vaping before work. They got in a massive fight. She told him to get his own ride home, but he failed to give any of that police information to the police. So we have this woman who is under one of the missing, deceased, mysterious circumstances of the scientists that have gone missing, or like I said, mysteriously deceased, many from New Mexico, working in that famous lab that she worked in. We've got financial troubles. We've got a husband hiding some stories. We've got a witness of her hiking. We've got 2 phones scrubbed at 2 different times. We've got her going just after lunch to deliver her daughter a sandwich for lunch, and then seen just later hiking along 518, limping with a backpack on. Now my remote viewing shows her confused, her limping, and I hear, oh my God, I've been set up. I'm going to go back in and remote view in a little bit, but first I want to deep dive a little bit more into this case so I can get a clear understanding of what I'm trying to remote view, because I also hear the word murder. Who was it? Was it somebody connected to the science community? Was it Mark? Who was in that blue van following her? I'm going to try to get to the bottom of this. Let's listen in some more first, though.
The Casias home didn't have surveillance cameras or anything like that, but there were some outside the shopping plaza where Sierra worked. And there is footage of Melissa, alone, seemingly fine, going to drop off lunch for her daughter. At 12:56 p.m., Melissa's white sedan comes in hot to a handicapped parking spot. Like, she bumps into that, I don't know what I want to call it, a guardrail, but you know,
Like a parking stop.
yeah, it's like, and it's so hard that the whole car kind of shakes. So she like backs up a little bit. And then like 10 seconds later, she gets out of the car and calmly starts walking down the sidewalk with a sandwich for Sierra in one hand. Then another camera picks her up in the plaza. We get a better look at her. She's in that turquoise t-shirt with a sweatshirt or something like that tied around her waist and jeans. And then a minute later, she is back on that same camera walking back to her car. No sandwich anymore, but she's holding a piece of paper in her hand, that check that Sierra asked her to cash for her. Now, the parking lot camera picks her back up, getting into her car, but the video cuts off before we actually see her pulling away. So I don't know what direction she went in, but she had to have made it home after this, since her car, her keys, her wallet, everything
That
was found
paycheck.
back there at the house. Right. But I don't think Mark believes anything happened to Melissa there, like at the house. His searches seem to be more focused in the spot along Highway 518 where Lloyd spotted Melissa.
Wait, I thought he was adamant that that could not have been Melissa.
Okay, so Mark told us that when that lead came in that first night when police were there, he was totally unaware that the tipster was someone who actually knew Melissa. So that's like, he dismissed it because like he didn't want investigators going on this like wild goose chase. Again, I still think the reason he dismissed it doesn't make sense, but whatever. But then he says at some point over the first couple of days, he learned that Lloyd was the caller. And so I guess by Tuesday, July 1st, enough time had passed that he's at least willing to entertain the idea that maybe it could have been. So he drives out to that stretch of highway looking for circling birds, which is like a potential sign of human remains.
Right, but that means he's now on board with a foul play theory.
No. I know. Mark told our reporter, Nina,
Okay.
that he never thought Melissa met with foul play. But if Lloyd's tip is true, and if Melissa had been injured or abducted, she wouldn't have made it far from that spot. Like, it's summer, it's hot, remains attract scavenging birds. So that's why he looked there on that Tuesday morning. Like, in an absence of knowing what happened, maybe everything's possible, even if it's not what he believed. Now, he told us that when he went out that way, he happened to see Lloyd outside in his yard. And so he decided to stop by and speak with him. Now, police still haven't reached out to Lloyd at that point, by the way. This is 5 days after Melissa was last seen. And when Lloyd lays out what he actually saw for Mark, this is when something shifts for Mark. Because Lloyd says that he never described Melissa as stumbling or staggering when he spoke to her brother. He tells Mark that Melissa was just there 1 minute, gone the next. And Lloyd didn't actually see her get into that blue truck that he saw or anything like that. But that is kind of the implication that he's making.
Wait, so does Mark think this was Melissa or not?
Well, now he seems more convinced that that was her. And if she wasn't injured or acting odd, it actually plays into his theory that she wasn't in distress. She just left.
And what do the Mondragons think?
They've always felt like this could have been her, stumbling or not. But even if she wasn't stumbling, the Mondragons still believe that she could have been in danger when she was out there. They think everything about this is screaming foul play. They don't believe for a second that she left willingly. Every theory that Mark has about her walking away is just that, a theory, and a constantly changing one at that, with no proof. So after this search, when Mark comes to them again and he's like, I found something that makes me even more positive that she left on her own, I imagine that they're pretty skeptical. But this time, it's not just stories or his word. This time, Mark has proof. Armed with information from Lloyd about exactly where he last saw Melissa and the blue truck, Mark had taken Sierra out to retrace Lloyd's steps. And in essence, he's trying to retrace Melissa's. Not with old school hunting tactics. He was looking for any house with a surveillance camera pointed at the road. And dude hit pay dirt. He finds a video from a house off of Highway 518 that you have to see to believe. The timestamp is 2:18 p.m. on June 26th, when Melissa, alive and well, not stumbling, comes onto frame. She's alone and walking at a brisk pace, not as if she's scared or anything, just purposefully. She's wearing what looks to me like the same outfit we saw her in when she dropped lunch off to Sierra. But now her hair is pulled back and she's carrying a small backpack on her shoulders. For the Casias side, this video is proof that Melissa walked away on her own 2 feet by choice. And Mark told us he wasn't thinking about vindication or exonerating himself at that moment. But it's hard to ignore what this video means, that there might be a whole nother side to this story. A completely different narrative about how and why Melissa went missing that will have you questioning everything.
Okay, are you confused yet? I know I'm confused because I definitely felt pain on the bottom of my left foot. Now, that could have been a coincidence in that video. I don't really see a limp either, though. But it gets even weirder because when we deep dive into her husband's behavior, stories, if you will, Mark, it gets a little bit more confusing to try to figure out, is this part of the missing scientist thing, or that blue van is somebody that took her, somebody she worked with? I hear she set up, I hear murder. Or is that related to her husband, Mark? Is it her going on her own and committing suicide? I'm going to deep dive into some more remote viewing and tell you what I see. First, however, I want to just remind you, okay, Mark, her husband's behavior. He first dismisses Lloyd's sighting immediately, saying she wasn't wearing a white sweater and didn't have a limp without even seeing the footage. Police accept this and they drop that lead. They don't even investigate it based on her husband's first saying it wasn't her, only to have him follow up and then find the footage. It was her. They also tagged and bagged the first night Mark, her husband's hunting boots, noting fresh mud and a dried blood drop found next to the fish tank he claims he hadn't worn them in ages, but police say it was fresh mud and dried blood near them. He ends his interview and asks for a lawyer. He then, 3 days later, admits to changing the locks and installing cameras on the house after Melissa vanishes, despite the fact that her keys are at home. Who's he locking out of the house? And Mark's Facebook posts, "You have help, but only for how long?" Question mark. Posted after she went missing? What the hell? Then we go to the remains. Found skeletonized, propped up against a tree, sitting upright against a tree, gunshot to the skull. We don't know here, we don't know where the gunshot is at the skull. But there is 0 animals scavenging the area. This is forensically very significant because this is in New Mexico desert, by the way. And she's found in an area that had already been searched. Her daughter says she didn't own a handgun. And the former homicide detective says this scene was staged. Sierra, her daughter, states again, only Mark had a handgun. Melissa did not own one. Here's what I can't reconcile visually. A body in New Mexico in the highs desert for nearly a year with 0 animal activity. I mean, it just doesn't add up. Let's watch a few more clips, and then I'm going to go back in and get more remote viewing to try to see if we can answer this mysterious case. It's a crazy one, boys and girls. It's a crazy one.
Anyway, the Daily Mail has reported that per a private investigator that was working on the case, Melissa's, quote, skeletonized remains were, and forgive me, this is just a trigger warning, were slumped up against a tree with a handgun nearby. And what caught this investigator's attention is the fact that her body didn't show any signs of, I guess, animals picking at it or anything of that nature, even though she's been missing for about a year. Generally, a body or a corpse would show signs of animals. I don't know how to say it without being, I'll just say it, eating away at it. So again, forgive me for that language. But yeah, so in the opinion of this investigator, he believes there's foul play involved because of this. And you could also go back to the family saying that they already searched that area as well. So that indicate to me, and this is speculation, that somehow this was staged, right? Whether or not Melissa staged it herself. I know her family does not believe that she was suicidal. And, I will show you their statement. Or it could be, it could, of course, be staged by Melissa. She could have waited. I'm speculating. I did not know her personally, so I say all of this respectfully, of course. But the investigator also mentioned to the Daily Mail her family is thinking about some sort of civil suit against the New Mexico State Police. They did not mention anything like this in their statement, so I don't know the validity of that. Again, that is not my original reporting. That comes from the Daily Mail. I'm waiting on just validation.
We're going to deep dive a little bit more into Mark, like I said, because the husband's got some things about him that just seem a little interesting. So we're going to do that. And like I said, I'm going to continue my remote viewing. But listen to Laura Conlon, who is a Los Angeles Magazine reporter and was featured. I really think it was Nancy Grace. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But listen to what Laura says the family's statement was just posted a couple days ago.
So it says, quote, over the last 11 months, we as a family have gathered and documented factual evidence and witness statements that point in one direction and one direction only. Although all evidence, including a witness to a confession, has implicated Melissa's husband as the main suspect in her murder, we must state, quote, allegedly, for legal purposes. We have been providing all pertinent information to the New Mexico State Police. We expect that now that Melissa's body has been recovered in an area that we had already searched, that the New Mexico State Police will take our mound of evidence seriously and stop going with Mark's narrative that she simply walked away. We do not believe and we will not accept this tragedy be ruled a suicide, and there is absolutely no evidence that indicates as such. We want to thank everyone for the thoughts, prayers, compassion, and love throughout this unimaginably painful 11 months. Thank you for loving Melissa. Now that she's been found, let's pray for justice.
And as far as the Mondragons are concerned, this moment, when this tip from Lloyd comes in, is the exact moment that they begin to become suspicious. Not of Diego, who they'd first told police about, but of Mark. When that tip from Lloyd comes in, Jasmine rushes to tell police what he saw. They have to check this out. Go to where he saw her. She could be hurt. She could be... Jasmine doesn't know, but this at least is a trail that they can follow, right? But instead of being excited about the lead, Mark immediately shuts it down. He tells officers there's no way that this was Melissa because she wasn't wearing a white sweater that day. Sierra remembers that she had on a light turquoise top when she saw her like around lunchtime.
Okay, she could have changed.
And also, he says, Melissa doesn't have a limp. So in his mind, the top's neither here nor there because he's like, whoever this woman is that's like stumbling or staggering, this is definitely not my wife.
Unless it is and she got hurt, which is like all the more reason to go check it out and make sure it's not her.
Listen, I know, but like, here's the thing. The biggest WTF moment for me is that police just go along with it. No need to check that out. Mark says it's not her. We're moving on.
You're kidding me.
I wish I was exaggerating.
I mean,
but no.
What if she got the limp because she like jumped out of a car? I mean, she could have been drugged.
The girl could have tripped over a pebble while just like out on a walk.
Yeah.
Like I could talk about this for hours and we're going to get into it more later. I promise. But they decide not to look. And in the meantime, that night, when the Mondragons get to talk to Mark, they're expecting a husband out of his mind with worry.
Yeah.
Instead, what they get is anger. Mark tells them that he and Melissa had gotten into an argument that morning before they left for work. He had caught her vaping. They bickered throughout the entire drive to the lab. And when she dropped him off, she told him to find his own effing ride home.
Wait, Mark didn't mention any of that to police.
Oh, no. And he doesn't for a while. But if the Mondragon's account is accurate, it means that Mark knew from the jump that Melissa wasn't planning to drive him home, not because of anything that Sierra later relayed in the day. And on top of that, they say that Mark starts bad-mouthing Melissa almost immediately, telling them that Melissa had been on a roll with F-ups lately, that she had destroyed their finances, accumulating debt, getting backed up on tax payments.
And are police searching the place at all, or are they just taking all these statements that first night?
No, they search. Mark lets police, including lead investigator, Agent Ezekiel Esquivel Mata. He goes through the house and they take photographs. And while there was nothing that stood out to the first responding officer who did that once over of the place, when you come at it with an investigator's eye and you zoom in, there is more that you pick up on. They hone in on a pair of Mark's hunting boots sitting on his and Melissa's bedroom floor next to a fish tank. Some of the mud on them look fresh, but Mark insists that he hadn't worn those boots in ages. And he points to what he says is proof, a spider web inside. Nobody put their foot in there recently. Except when agents look, they don't see any spider webs. For a man who says that he's been at work and inside all day, fresh mud on hunting boots is a hard thing to explain away. Then, when agents review the scene photos the next morning, this is now Friday, June 27th, they get more suspicious. Right next to one of those boots is a dried drop of something. Something that looks an awful lot like it could be blood. So when the Mondragons and Melissa's friends are out canvassing neighborhoods and hanging out missing person flyers, Mark goes in to talk to police. Agents put the photos in front of him. They ask him about the stain. But Mark says he's sure that's not blood. But he's getting more and more agitated as the questioning continues until finally he asks if he should get a lawyer, and he just ends it right there. But they detain him and seize his phone, which is worth noting because despite what he apparently later tells his daughters, he did not hand it over voluntarily, according to what police told us. They have to apply for a search warrant to get its contents by doing a forensic download, which that's going to take some time. But one thing they're able to do really quickly while he's at the station that day is verify his alibi. The lab confirms that he was at work that day, and even his drive home is accounted for because of that coworker who gave him a ride. He confirms that trip. However, that doesn't close anything out. No, it doesn't seem like he could have physically done anything to Melissa, but that doesn't prove that he wasn't involved or that he doesn't know more than he's letting on.
Okay, so I started this video with a little bit of remote viewing. I told you what I heard, what I see, and I'm going to go back and do some more. Tell me before I go back and reveal to you further remote viewing of what really happened to Melissa's, yes, Casias rather that night. I keep pronouncing her name wrong. Casias, Melissa Casillas. I want you to tell me below whether you think this is Mark, self-inflicted, somebody Mark maybe hired, that blue van, her work-related situation with the UFO and missing scientists. Tell me what you think below. DS, her daughter's ex-boyfriend. There's 4 possibilities here. Tell me which one you think they are, and I'm going to go back in remote viewing and report back to you exactly what I see. Let's go. Okay. I see her get into that blue van. She does get into the blue van. I think she refers to the guy as Hi Bob, is his name. Goosebumps, validation, thank you. They go hiking, and somehow she gets turned around or lost. And this is giving me very, very similar vibes to General McCaslin. And I hear her saying, she set me up. She set me up. And she's twisted and lost and trying to find a way out of the bush. Oh, and all of a sudden I see a man coming up to her with a gun, and she's pleading, no, 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 please. And she's saying, she set me up. And he's saying, you did this to yourself. You did this to yourself. I see her pleading for her life, and she slides down the bottom of the tree to crouch. I don't actually see the trigger being pulled, but it's certainly implied that this is what's happened. Also, this man is wearing similar clothing, although it's all black here from what I saw in McCaslin. And I'm not sure who sets her up. I'm thinking her daughter. There was also a reference, which I didn't show you, of a clip earlier in that video where somebody drove a long way away to give her $50 for her daughter's graduation. And I'm wondering if that person is connected to her through work, because somebody connected to her through work set her up. I thought I was fully expecting her to say this was Mark, because I'm in the moment and I'm saying, Melissa, who is this? Who set you up? And I just get a female set her up. And I'm asking, is this Mark or work related? And I see a big circle around work. Wow, work. And I first clarify because I want to know if it's her daughter. And I know that's a horrible thing to say, but she had access to the muddy boots, potentially. But no, it's some female with work, related to work, who set her up. This guy, Bob, is somehow involved, picks her up to take her to go hiking, which is exactly what we saw with General McCaslin, only he gets topsy-turned around too and lost and mysteriously runs into somebody nefarious. And that's exactly what I'm seeing here. And I'm not expecting that when I'm remote viewing. I'm clearing my brain out. But personally, I was, you have to clear your brain out because otherwise you're front loading and you're leading the investigation to what you're going to see. But I fully expected that after all the reporting on this Mark husband of hers, he would have been behind this. But no, this is work related. Y'all, OMG, work related. Okay, a little surprised, a lot surprised. Tell me what you think below. Thank you for doing the YouTubey things. Thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. I couldn't do this without you. And I want to just say lastly, I know some of you have reported my findings of Lynette Hooker to Ashley Banfield, and others have said you've sent it to the authorities. I want to say thank you for that. Sadly, they did not seemingly go to Snapper Point Marina, the abandoned marina, and they left without Lynette's remains having been found. So I'm very upset, if you will, and disappointed about that. I know Carly asked that they search there, or she wanted them to. Now, clearly they went where the evidence told them to go, and they found, according to Ashley, some really good information, but just not Lynette. So I'm really hoping that maybe some volunteer searchers or maybe the Coast Guard will go back and go to Snapper Point Marina, where I identified because I remote viewed and saw him burying her there. Thank you, everybody, for being here again. Love and light. Do all the YouTubey things. Be good. And until the next time, we see you soon.